All right, everyone. Of course, with the Trump assassination attempt, there are 10 million fucking goddamn questions to ask about what the hell happened. Should never have been allowed to occur. A security perimeter, of course, should have been actually secured, and it wasn't. They missed one of those roofs because it had a 15-degree incline. The problem with Cheadle's, and that's the most hilarious name ever for a security director for the Secret Service, the problem with the explanation that the Secret Service is given as to why there wasn't somebody on the roof that fateful day several days ago is that it had an incline. But there was a sniper on an adjacent roof on the other side of the venue that had a deeper slope. Then we hear, oh, well, no, that's not the explanation. The person called out sick, and we couldn't find a replacement for them. And then we find out that the security, that the director repeatedly denied additional security for Trump. Now we're finding out that some of the security there wasn't even Secret Service. Now, according to whistleblowers that talked to Hawley, some of them were just Department of Homeland Security agents. They weren't even Secret Service. Trump's detail that day was extremely sparse. Now we're finding out additionally, oh, it gets better. Trust me, it gets much, well, worse, technically. Now we're finding out that apparently the shooter was able to fly a drone over the venue a week beforehand in order to scope it out. Nothing here makes any goddamn sense. The head of the Secret Service does need to step down. You do need to resign. It ain't just Republicans calling on you to resign. Hell, there are Democrats out there. Imagine that Trump had gotten brain. What would happen? Well, then whoever takes over gets the sympathy vote. I mean, you would have automatically reelected the Republicans. Therefore, there are Democrats pointing this out right now and saying, look, quarter of an inch. That's basically all that was between our nation and having an automatic Republican be in office. I think that the fact that he got part of his ear shot off is going to get him reelected anyway. That and the fact that whoever the hell he's debating in September probably can't hold a candle to him. I think the writing's on the wall. I think that Trump will be reelected. I have a sneaking suspicion. Americans love a fallen hero that gets back up. Keep that in mind. But the number of questions that I have here with regards to what happened with the Secret Service and with security in general there, the fucking FBI and all of these other groups, is almost too much to bear. It's like there are so many questions that you can't really even... You have to step back and see it big picture mode. It's like you can't see the forest for the trees or something like that. There are so many things that went wrong. There are so many excuses flying around, and so many agencies, by the way, trying to throw each other under the bus. I don't know. It's become confusing, the current political climate. I say this as a person who is trained in political analysis and classically trained in political science. It's just fucking weird. Cheadle should Cheadle juice should step down. That's step number one. Step number two, Trump security detail after this event clearly needs to be boosted. Step number three, Trump needs to look at the situation and say, look, obviously somebody there doesn't want me alive. Maybe I should increase my own personal security detail and pay them myself. There's nothing more reliable than a man who can be bought with hard cash, after all, to semi-quote Johnny Depp in Ninth Gate. Or rather Boris Balkan in Ninth Gate. Good movie, by the way. Second favorite movie of all time after the Brotherhood of the Wolf. Excellent. It's kind of slow-paced, aesthetic, a lot of book references. I like books. Just saying. Anyway, I don't know what the hell happened with the security detail that was supposed to protect him. They didn't do their job. It took him a good long time to kill the person who was trying to snipe the former president of the United States now, didn't it? It's like, oh, well, you know, we're being told actively, and the local PD is blameless in this, by the way. They tried to do their job. So did the fucking bystanders, and we'll get to them in a second. There was no communication between the Secret Service and the local PD that had to have been radioing in, shit, there's a person up there with a fucking rifle, and he's been spotted by numerous people. He's literally being recorded by about 100 iPhones right now. Apparently there was nothing they could do about it. By the way, the crowd at that event, normally when a shooting begins, people panic and people stampede. And then they end up sometimes trampling one another and killing one another because they're afraid. That didn't happen. At this venue, people got down. Well, some of them were still standing. Unfortunately, there were several people shot, and again, my condolences to them and to their families. But people didn't stampede. People didn't panic at all. They were apparently too busy taking in the spectacle or something. It's like, oh, what the fuck is going on? Normally, can you imagine it? Well, nobody's going to shoot up a Biden venue because there's not enough targets anyway. There's like 10 people watching him. It's too low-key. And the Secret Service actually will guard him. And thank God for them doing so, by the way, because otherwise you get President Kamala Harris. I am not joking when I say I would take a bullet for Joe. I would save my country and die in the process or be grievously injured in order to prevent a President Kamala Harris. Goddamn, imagine how fucking frightening. That'd be more frightening than a mass shooting, so, I'd do the best that I could. I'm wondering what the hell went on here. It doesn't look like a series of miraculous and spectacular security lapses. It looks more like a fucking conspiracy. And I don't use that term lightly, by the way. You know, if you've watched this channel, oftentimes I'm the calm one, and I try to explain things, be kind of dry in my analysis and stuff, and I say, look, people have like 5 hot takes on some event, and they're saying that something crazy is going on behind closed doors, and I try to be like voice of reason mode, because that tends to be the reality. But the only thing that I can think of in this case is that they knew that there was going to be a shooter there, and they allowed him into the venue. That's the only conclusion that I can draw. When I see the FBI and Secret Service actions in the wake of this assassination attempt, it makes me even more goddamn suspicious. It takes a lot to get me to that particular mode of reasoning, by the way. The only equivalency I can draw is that with the JFK assassination, when the Secret Service were supposed to be riding the tail fins of the limo, and they were stood down. They were waved off by, again, I believe the governor at the time of Texas. So it looked a little conspicuous because the supposed shot that was taken should not have been physically possible to take under those circumstances. In this case, it should never have been possible for a shooter to get up on the roof. Donald Trump turns his fucking head and saves the country from absolute chaos. Well, thank you. You saved us from nuclear war by beating Hillary. Then you saved us from another riotous leftoid event, although it will happen after the election, I'm sure, regardless of the outcome, by turning your head. Donald Trump was his own best friend at that particular moment because quite clearly the security that was around him was completely incompetent to deal with the scenario. Again, the local PD had to have been radioing the Secret Service that was around Trump at the time. It had to have happened. And if that coordination wasn't happening, oh God, would that be goddamning. That would be even worse. They didn't set up a direct line so that the officers on the outer perimeter were capable of telling the people directly around the president, hey, get him fucking out of here because there's a threat. My goodness. It's almost like, hey, this dude probably could have just flown a drone over the event and probably gotten away with it, I suppose. I mean, you people are not serious individuals. I'm sorry, but the head of the Secret Service needs to stand down. They need to clean house. And if I were Trump, I'd be doubling my own personal security staff and doubling their fucking salaries because quite clearly something is terribly wrong. That's about all. Peace out.